You're a poor man. Aren't you ashamed to come to the bank?" A new employee spat these words at me as I was about to leave the bank after finishing my business. I ignored him, but it seemed to irritate him even more, and he said something even more outrageous. "Are you trying to run away? Then never come back. Poor people should just keep their money in a drawer. If he's going to go that far, I'm going to make his wish come true. As you said, I'm a poor man, so I won't use this bank anymore. My name is John Williams. I run a factory that I inherited from my father. I'm already 63 years old, but I still like to think I'm young and active, although I'm not good with machines. That's why I've completely left all the computer-related stuff to my son. My wife has been telling me that it's time to retire and hand things over to my son. But as long as I'm fine, I want to keep working. It's not that I don't trust my son. He started working at the factory right after graduating from college, has gained experience, and is trusted by the other employees. I just enjoy working. People sometimes look down on us just because we work for a factory. It's true that most of our work is subcontracted, and our name recognition is nowhere near that of companies you see on TV. But there are benefits to being a small company. For example, everyone helps train the newcomers, and all the employees feel like family. There's a warmth that comes from being small enough for everyone to sit face to face and talk. As I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate this more and more. Since I was little, my father always told me I would take over as president one day. When I was a child, I felt proud of this, but as I grew up, it became a source of pressure. During my high school years, I was often at odds with my father. "Study properly. You won't be able to run the company in the future if you don't." My dislike for studying always got me in trouble with him. "I'm tired of a life decided by my parents. I'll decide my own life." With that, I took a job at another company and left home. After that, I rarely visited home, and my relationship with my father remained strained. It wasn't until about 10 years later that our relationship improved. When I decided to get married, I went back home to introduce my girlfriend. When I saw my father again after so long, he looked much older. Until then, I always thought my father would remain the same forever. It was natural for him to age since I was getting older too, but for some reason it was a real shock. With my wife's persuasion, I returned home after getting married and started working at my father's company. I began from the ground up, gaining experience just like any other new employee. Recognized by both my seniors and my father, I took over as president at the age of 40. It's been more than 20 years since then. We have weathered tough times, struggling through economic fluctuations, but we've always pulled together to overcome them. There is a major bank branch conveniently located near our factory, and we use it frequently. Though it can be a bit crowded, the bank staff are always polite and pleasant. However, the situation changed a bit this year. Among the new employees this year, there is one with a bad attitude. His name is David Moore. I've dealt with him before on a previous visit. On that day, I went to withdraw $300. My impression was that he was polite and friendly. Despite his youth, he worked efficiently and managed customers without any delays. "Thank you for waiting. How can I assist you today?" he said. "I'd like to withdraw $300, please." When I handed him my passbook, he made an obvious face of annoyance. "Just $300? "Yes, $300 is fine." "I'll call your number. Please have a seat and wait." He seemed to handle it politely, but as I returned to the waiting area, I heard the teller, David, mutter, "Only $300? That's cheap." He probably thought he said it quietly enough that I wouldn't hear, but I have good ears. I didn't want to make a fuss and be labeled a complainer, so I pretended not to hear. "Number 48, your transaction is ready." I was called to the counter soon after. He appeared to handle the transaction normally, but as I took my money and was about to leave, I heard him mutter again, "Don't come back, you poor man." That really irritated me, but I decided to leave the bank. After that, I used the bank a few more times and ended up being attended to by David again. It was clear he didn't like that I only dealt with small amounts of money. His attitude was dismissive, and he seemed to mock me. I go to the bank every month the day before payday to make the transfers. Since we have just a few employees, this method works just fine, and I always use the branch near the factory. Normally, I go first thing in the morning or change clothes and go during lunch break. But today, I didn't have the time due to an upcoming deadline. The bank is just around the corner, so I decided to go in my work uniform. It is quite crowded today, and it looks like I'd have a long wait. I wanted to get this done quickly and get back to help with the work. After about 15 minutes, it was finally my turn. When I looked at the counter, I saw that David was the one handling it. Not a date. David glanced at my outfit and made a face of obvious disdain. Wearing those dirty clothes again. I heard him mutter, something I had grown accustomed to. Not wanting to waste time engaging with him, I pretended not to hear and pulled out the transfer form. "I'd like to make a transfer. Sorry for the large amount," I said as I handed him the form. But he wouldn't accept it. "Let me be clear since you didn't seem to hear me. This isn't a place for poor people like you, understand? I've been using this bank for many years now. There's no minimum amount required for transfers. Plus, as a president, I make much more than a new employee's salary. Why is he trying to drive a customer away? Just having someone dressed like you come in here ruins our image. It's really a nuisance." David said this with an exaggerated sigh. "Sure, my work clothes are pretty worn out, but they can't be ruining the bank's image that much. I'm sorry, but I'm in a hurry today. Can you please just handle this quickly?" My calm response seemed to annoy him even more. "I'm telling you to leave. Didn't you hear me? Stop coming to the counter with such small amounts and wasting our time. Unlike you, we're not idle." His words infuriated me, but I had to make the transfer today. The payroll must be ready to be withdrawn by 10 a.m. That's the policy, since it's not legally mandated. There's no issue if it's after 10 a.m. as long as it's done that day, but it would trouble the employees. I understand. I decided to wait again and have someone else handle my transaction. Although it would take longer, it was better than wasting time arguing with David. If it was going to take time anyway, I'd rather not listen to his insults. So, I waited again. It seemed the peak time had passed, and there were fewer people waiting now. While waiting in the seating area, I noticed David being called by his supervisor. Maybe he was getting a lecture. About 5 minutes later, it was my turn, and this time I was called to a different counter. The new teller didn't mention my clothes and accepted my transfer form without any fuss. I finally accomplished my task and was about to head back to the factory when David stopped me as I left the bank. "Hold on a minute." Just when I thought I could finally leave, I wondered what he wanted. Moreover, he had dropped the polite language he had barely maintained earlier. This was no way to treat a customer. "What is it? I'm done here, and I'm about to leave." "What is it? This is it. I got scolded because of you. Don't mess with me." He was probably called out for his attitude earlier. But that's a totally baseless accusation. The only one to blame is him for his lack of manners as a professional. He was likely told to apologize, but instead, he's lashing out. If you got scolded for what happened earlier, it's not my fault. Others here treated me just fine. You're the one who tried to kick me out for no reason. It's your fault for coming to the bank, even though you're poor. I was just kindly telling you that this bank is no fit for you. If you had just left quietly, I wouldn't have been scolded. He clearly wasn't listening. I'm grateful that none of the young employees at my company behave like this. Is it against the rules for poor people to come to the bank? There's no such rule, right? I've never thought it was embarrassing to go to the bank. It's just a place you use when necessary. Do you always worry about how others see you when you go to the bank? That sounds like a hassle. I'm not poor like you. I wouldn't be caught dead wearing such shabby clothes, even just to go out. I couldn't help but retort. To get back quickly, I decided to ignore anything else he said. Is that so? Well, I'm in a hurry, so I'll be going. Trying to run away, then never come back. Poor people should just keep their money in a drawer. For a moment, I was stunned and couldn't understand what he meant. How could I store the important company funds like that? It's the employees' salaries. I trusted this bank to keep it safe. But if he's going to go that far, I'm going to make his wish come true. Is that so? All right then, as you said. I'm a poor man, so I won't use this bank anymore. David seemed taken aback by how easily I conceded. He probably thought he could keep berating me and use me as a stress outlet. I'll come back another day to close my account. With that, I returned to the factory. After completing the deadline successfully and settling down, I went to open an account at another bank. Although it's a bit farther from both my home and the factory, making it less convenient, I chose this bank because I can use ATMs at corner shops and make payroll transfers online. I'm not very good with the internet, but my son taught me a lot, and I found it to be quite convenient. After opening the account, I headed to the bank near the factory that I always used. My goal today was to transfer all the money to the new account and close the old one. This would ensure I never had to return to this bank again. Today, it wasn't very crowded, and it was soon my turn. How can I assist you today? I'd like to transfer the entire $35 million from this account to another one. $35 million, excuse me, but could this be a case of fraud? The bank clerk seemed bewildered by the large amount. It's fine. I've opened a new corporate account at another bank and would like to close this one. Please wait a moment. I'll call the branch manager. The clerk hurried to the back. When he returned, he guided me to a private booth. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I'm James Miller, the branch manager. I understand you want to close your account. May I ask why? I've opened an account at the bank near the station, and I plan to use that as my main bank from now on. So, I won't be using this bank anymore and would like to close my account. When I mentioned the rival bank, James looked worried. But the bank near the station is a bit farther away. Considering the location of your factory, our bank is more convenient. While it's true that distance is greater, I've set up everything to be managed online, so there's no need to worry. James tried to persuade me by explaining various benefits, but I wasn't going to change my mind. Is there a specific reason why our bank isn't acceptable? There is a young banker here named David. He told me that poor people shouldn't come to the bank and should just keep their money in a drawer. Because of that, I'm closing my account so I don't have to come here anymore. What? David said that? I am deeply sorry. James turned pale and apologized repeatedly. I've been using this bank for many years, and the service has always been polite and pleasant. I don't believe everyone here feels the way David does, but his manners are just intolerable. James stood up, saying he would bring David, and soon David was dragged over. You've said some quite rude things, haven't you? How could you be so disrespectful to a customer? James pressed him sternly, and David stammered in response. Well, I've dealt with him a few times, and he always uses just a small amount of money. It's inconvenient when we're busy. James buried his head in his hands at David's excuse. How could you say such a thing to a customer? Judging people by the amount of money they have makes you unfit to be a banker. David seemed momentarily cowed by James's stern words. What you did was wrong. That doesn't go away, but what's important is what you do next. Apologize properly to Mr. Williams. I'll apologize with you. James's tone shifted to a calm one as he urged David. However, David's pride couldn't accept being scolded by his boss and apologizing to me, so he became enraged and raised his voice. I didn't do anything wrong. I just told the truth that he was a nuisance. Even you must think it's a waste of time dealing with such small matters. I've always taught you to value every customer, to handle even the smallest matters with care. It's these small actions that build a good reputation for our bank. James's tone remained calm, but his anger was evident. I'm sorry for the unpleasant experience due to my inadequate training. I deeply apologize. No, I know those weren't just empty words. I've always received excellent service here. As someone who also manages employees, I felt a bit of sympathy for James. No matter how well you teach, it's meaningless if the person isn't willing to learn. Your understanding means a lot. I'll personally handle the account closure for you. What the heck? So you're really closing your account? Why are you soft-soaping this guy, boss? He won't be a customer anymore, so there's no point in sucking up to him. David sneered. David reacted to the word closure. With his attitude of thinking this was just sucking up, his previous rudeness made sense. It doesn't bother me if someone like him closes his account. It's less work for us, right? Efficiency is important, isn't it? Branch manager, I didn't do anything wrong. James and I were speechless at David's complete indifference. Someone like him, it's wrong to judge customers, but don't you realize who Mr. William is? Of course I do. He's a poor man with too much free time, who barely deposits any money. David laughed those words out. You understand nothing. John runs a factory and has a corporate account with us, managing hundreds of millions here. But he never. When you were in charge, it was for personal transactions. The savings are in another account, so there's not much in that one. When I tried to make a transfer from the corporate account, you drove me away. I pulled out my passport to show him proof. Realizing he was about to lose a major client, David panicked. I wouldn't have said that if I knew. Why didn't you tell me, branch manager? I told you during your initial training, and I've reminded you every day to treat every customer with respect. David tried to shift the blame, but it was clearly his own fault. Please, don't close your account. I'm really sorry. I'll handle things properly from now on. He apologized, but it was clear it was only a surface-level apology. Even if you apologize now, I have no intention of canceling the closure. I can't trust someone who judges and looks down on people based on their wealth. I'm truly sorry. I regret my actions. No matter how much he apologized, his words sounded insincere. If you had said that right away when I came in, things might have been different. But it's too late now. This is your fault, and no one else's. You think you can feel superior just because I'm apologizing? His brief attempt at humility quickly faded, revealing his true attitude. David's face showed clear resentment. If you don't stop this behavior, I might have to consider your termination. James raised his voice. Is that a threat? I'll report you to headquarters for bullying me. Realizing he couldn't win against me, David turned on James, trying to avoid responsibility for the account closure. If you want to report me to headquarters, go ahead. I won't hide or run, and I will ensure you're dealt with appropriately. Don't mess with me. I didn't do anything wrong, David continued to insist he was not at fault, like a child throwing a tantrum. He hadn't matured enough to take responsibility. That's why I can't trust you. You're not truly feeling sorry. Don't dare to think you can just cover it up with a fake apology. All you've been thinking about is avoiding blame. Perhaps I hit the mark, as David glared at me silently. Because of your actions, this bank has lost $35 million. The branch manager even offered to apologize with you, but you wasted that opportunity. Even a rookie should understand the magnitude of this. Reflect on your actions from now on. Finally, David had nothing to say. He opened his mouth a few times but couldn't find the words. Afterward, James handled the account closure, and I moved the corporate account to another bank. I'm truly sorry for everything. Thank you for your many years of patronage. If you ever reconsider, we'd be happy to serve you again. James saw me off courteously as I left the bank. I felt sorry for him, but I wouldn't be using this bank again. James decided to give David a strict warning and a pay cut, trying to retrain him from scratch, considering he was only in his first year. However, David couldn't accept being scolded so harshly. He wasn't used to being reprimanded. David wasted James's kindness, becoming sulky, and his work attitude worsened. His colleagues viewed him coldly. He caused a major problem and showed no remorse, only sulking. No one stood up for him. David became isolated. James tried to support him, but David pushed him away, blaming him for his situation. Eventually, he angrily submitted his resignation. "There are plenty of companies that would want me," he said. But reality was harsh. David thought he'd find a new job quickly, but he failed at the application stage and couldn't even get interviews. He didn't understand how harshly the world judges someone who quits within a year. If he had left due to illness, injury, or a genuinely bad company, it might have been different, but David simply ran away. Even if he did get an interview, it would be hard for him to succeed. I've conducted many interviews and met many people, including young ones who quit shortly after being hired, just like David. I've heard various reasons during interviews: bad-mouthing their previous company, admitting they lack patience, and more. If I thought they could stick with us, I hired such young people, but if I were the interviewer, I wouldn't hire David. David hasn't reflected on his actions. If he gets reprimanded again, he'll quit. With long years of experience, you learn to sense these things. Unless he changes his mindset, he won't find a job. After using the online bank for a while, thanks to my son's support, I got the hang of it. It's convenient and saves time from having to go to the bank. I can't forgive David, but it turned out to be a good opportunity. As we age, we tend to resist new things. But from now on, I want to embrace them. By keeping up with the times, I hope to work as long as possible.